Hi everyone who is watching this video today. So today marks another exciting episode where we are bringing for you this coming series in terms of the rules that we've been building up in our beginner series. So I'm quite excited to be here again so that we share what we have. We share in terms of knowledge and also that in-depth coverage of these very crucial sections of the standard methods of measurements. Remember that after we are done with this, we'll be moving to another set of rules which we are discussed in our prior beginning sessions, including the new rules of measurements, so that we are able to cover or include everybody that is going to benefit from this content, including other sections, other parts of the world, because this is an international channel. So I want to welcome you all to this beginner series, so that we continue to learn, we continue to build on top of what we have already gained, so that we have that proper mastery. So as usual, before we continue much into it, my name is Baxton Ochieng. I will urge you to subscribe to this channel so that you keep getting the information, you keep getting the details of every coverage as soon as it's uploaded on this platform. So today, let's just go through the content that I would like us to cover for our session today, and that is as presented. We want to go about a brief introduction, which is already done, basically roofing, then we go to carpentry, and we also see now what we have in the joinery. So for those three sections, these are different sections of the standard methods of measurements that I want us to touch on, and then when we are complete with that, that should mark our end of this session that we are presenting today. So as usual, we present using the standard methods of measurement, and once that is complete and understood, then we now give an elaborate explanation using a typical bills of quantities, so that you bring whatever that has been said and whatever is in theoretical form into perspective. So in that manner, you realize that you get that in-depth understanding, which is basically why you are part of this channel. So with that said, we want to go straight away to roofing, and before that, maybe just let's just take a look at different parts of the roof, because in one way or another, either you've interacted with the roof. Definitely a roof is now the topmost part, which is covering the house, and basically it's a structural roof is a structural element, and it has got various purposes. So reason one where we have the roof is so that it shields the occupants from the extreme weather conditions, including rain, extreme sunshine, and so on. Also it also envelopes the house, gives you security, so that there is no access, the access is controlled in that manner. So these are the various parts of the roof, as you can see from that given presentation. We have the roof covering, which is what is available for you to what you can see from various sides, or from various elevations. You are able to see the covering, but then now beneath the covering there are other items which are also crucial, making part of that roof. So these are the items that some of the items that we need to look into, and we know now which are the rules, where do we get the rules of these items, and then how do we go about them. And of course, later on now in the advanced stages, we'll now come and do the actual measurements of those roofs now, of various roof sections. We have this, how do you measure, how do you get the area, because at the end of the day, the main objective of this channel is to make sure that you understand right from the basics, you get it quite clearly, and then after the basics are understood, then we now go to the actual measurement, the actual estimation, and then we now draw up a proper bills of quantities. So that is one of the objectives of this channel, and of course to give you the construction trends, what's happening, and also implementation of various technology across the world. Okay, so that said, you can have seen those various components of the roof. Now we want to see how do you measure them in terms of the standard methods of measurements. So let's have a look. Generally, as you can see from the top, of course, before you go to the top roof, I always like teaching based on the sequence in which the works are done. So let's just get back here, and you notice that we have that skeleton of a roof. Okay, so we have that skeleton where we just have the trusses, we have the purlins, we have all those components, and of course there are those that you can't see from straight as it is because the way the image is presented. But then I just want you to have an overview of what we're talking about, what the roof is, and also its various parts. Now, talking from the roof trusses. Now, the roof trusses is what has been referred to in the standard methods as now the structure. Okay, the structural timber, that is making up this given roof. So in that case, you realize that that given part has been done to you, and then let me just move down and show you. So looking into various components of the roof, you find that there are those items which are measured according to different subheadings. For example, you find there is a structural timber. Those are now the ones that are making the trusses you use to make the trusses, the struts, and the the joists. You also make what we call the wall plate. So those various components of the roof are measured in regard to the relevant subheadings. So you might find that it's part of the roof, yes, but it's not falling within the roofing in terms of these given standard methods of measurements. So for the structural timber, you move down to you go to the component, the bit 4, that is talking about structural timber, and that is under carpentry. Okay, so under carpentry, maybe just the next section, and let me just show you that given part very fast. And so the structural timbers. So the structural timbers that can carry weight, that is basically the definition of that. So those ones are measured under section this is section L for the standard methods. So we are still under timber, but then there are those parts of the roof that is now falling below the carpentry. So of course we just go back to where we were and talk about the rest of the items that we are looking at. So the various obvious components of the roof that we have is the covering. So covering is you do it in square meters. Just want us to see from the example that we have and show you how that is done. So under the sections for roofing, we are talking about now the structural timber. Of course, you understand that one is falling under section H. No wonder we've combined for this session. We are combining the roof, carpentry, and also the joinery, because we find that some of those items fall in different sections of those that we've mentioned. So for the structural timber, we are saying that we have the roof construction, okay, and then you describe the nominal sizes of those timber. You can look at that description that is provided. So you talk about the nominal size, okay, and then you measure them in linear meters. Of course, we'll come to see how those various parts of the items of the timber, like now struts, like the rafters, the joists, and also wall plate, how you can read them from the plan. That is now the section that is coming next. But then before then, you need to understand that this is the item, and then you need to measure it in this particular way. So that is why we've taken this chance to elaborate more on the rules, show you a typical builds, and also show you where the rules have been extracted, so that you are able to build on that, understand how that is coming about. Okay, yeah, so just for you to confirm what we are saying. We've talked about the structural timber. It's in the section L, so that is covered. Then let's see for whatever again other item we have. So for the roof covering, which can be of various types. Okay, roof covering can be, we have corrugated sheets, corrugated or traft sheet roofing. We can also have tile roofing. So all those, the underlying constant is all the roof covering is measured in square meters. Okay, so whichever type of the covering that you're having, the ones that I've talked about in terms of tile, in the terms of the corrugated sheets, they are measured in square meters. So we'll also come to see how that square meters is, square meter of the roof is being arrived at. So let's just move on and on. So we talk about the ridge cappings. Okay, of course that is also part of the covering, but then now on top of the ridge boards. So once you have that, just reduce your linear meter, that is the total linear meters for that particular item, and then you will be good, because now you have that, measure that, and let's see now how that has been done as well. We have that. This is now the roof covering. You make your description, whatever that is available, you describe it fully the way the work is supposed to be done, and then you have your linear meters, you get your total costs for that particular work. So that is one of the ways, that is one of the items that is of that is crucial and was intended to be discussed under roofing. So others include the fascia boards, barge boards. Okay, so in this case you describe size, measure in linear meters, but you describe the sizes of those particular items. Okay, yeah, that is how that is done. Of course, gutters as well in linear meters, describing the full size or the sizes, and also how it's going to be done or at work on site for that particular work. Then next we cover the heavy duty. This is now down pipes as well. We also do it in linear meters. So let's go to the standard methods and see what we are missing. Yeah, you can see the highlighted one. We have barge boards. Okay, we also have ridge cappings. I've told you the ridge capping is covering the ridge boards. Then we have barge boards now to the ones that are towards the gable end. That is why we have the barge boards. You also do that in linear meters. And let's see what we have next. Yeah, of course, roof ventilators, do them in numbers. Okay, but then in numbers, describing the full description, giving the full description of that particular item. Okay, from the sizes, the capacity, if you can get that, and how it works or where it has been installed, all that, including finishing and making good of all of that given particular roof ventilator. So of course now the other components or the other types of roofs, the underlying principles that we've discussed remain the same. So despite the one that you're having, you just need to refer to the specific section that you have, but then there are those that are relatable. Okay, for instance, we've talked about roof covering in terms of tile, roof covering in terms of corrugated iron sheets. So all those, you describe the gauge as you've seen from the bills of quantities. So once you have that basis, then you can comfortably handle any other job in regard to that particular item that we've talked about. Yeah, so of course there are numerous of the rules. We have roof decking, also done in square meters, as we've seen, waterproofing the roofs. Okay, terms of the types, yeah, we had discussed waterproofing in our previous session, but now you realize that now these are now the different items, but then the underlying principles of the square meters, and how you describe fully how that work is being done, that remains constant. Okay, so if you have that idea, then you can handle the rest of the work without any problem. Yeah, so all that still under roofing. Let's see what well, so that's basically summarizes what we have to discuss under the rules of measurements for the roofing items. Of course, there are those other parts which are making up roofing as a unit, but then you realize that as we'll be going to handle now a typical bills of quantities, we are going to do it now in terms of the actual items, okay, where we'll be following up on how the drawing has been interpreted and then how it's being done on one-on-one basis until it's completed. So there is no need to worry about that, because that is where we are going at the end of the day. So so far so good. That is all about roofing, and then we like to look into the next item. Looking into carpentry. Now, carpentry involves a wide variety of items that need to be covered within it, and now these items, we are going to talk about the ones that are most common, and more detail to be covered now when we are now going to have a typical one-on-one evaluation or estimation that is now going to help us make proper bills of quantities. Now, in this case, we look at now various items. Of course, we've talked about a structural timber that is now falling under carpentry. So for that reason, we've also handled how that carpentry, the structural timber, are being handled or are being measured. We've talked about linear meters, okay. But then now there are other items falling below it. Let's just see what else we can talk about. Yeah, so of course, when you want to install, for instance, a ceiling, you have a brandering. All those timber that is used in that given item, you talk about linear meters. So you need to understand your drawing, interpret how they are done, and then you measure them in linear meters as the rule is describing. Yes, timber boarding. Timber boarding, you can do it in that is done in square meters. Okay, the timber boarding, you describe fully how the sizes of those boards and the thicknesses, all those, that is entailing how that work is done, and you have your area. Then you should be good. You make your pricing, you have your bills of quantities. So we see if in case there is any other thing under that. Yeah, so basically carpentry is that brief with the items that we've talked about. You are able to see. Yeah, I showed you the bills of quantities where we are talking about the linear meters. Okay, of course, now when you're talking about timber boarding, TNG timber boarding, for instance, at the eaves of the houses, then you just get your area. In that case, after you have your area, then you now have complied with the rule. You just make your pricing, and then that is complete, or what you are intending to do is done. So let's see anything else that involves the carpentry that we might have left out, just in case there is, and I am not seeing one. Then that is it for carpentry. Then I would like us to look again into now the next bit, that is called the joinery. Within the joinery, now we have a summary of also items that you need to focus on while you're doing your estimates. Of course, it's quite a handful of items, but then there are those that you need to pick on. So that's why in these of my presentations, I try to summarize for you the parts which you need most, and that is why that's where we need to focus on. Okay. So joinery, in this case, you find that there's for the joinery items that are classified under this subsection, we have board and strip flooring, for example, and as you're aware that is now a floor finishing. Okay, so realize that you have this type of these boards and the joinery, I mean board and strip flooring, that is done in square meters under the section of joinery. So we move down and see what we cover next is boarding and paneled linings. So under every subsection there are items which are concerned with it, or items that are covered below it. And when you look into now my summary, there are those items that I've highlighted for you. You can also talk about joineries, you talk about doors for this case. But realize in the system in which the bills of quantities has been separated, you will find that you have the doors also as a different section, okay, that you are yet to notice just in a few. Let me just show you that. Looking into the doors that I've just told you, then you realize that, okay, leave alone the steel casement doors, but then we go to now the timber doors. So the rule tells you that you need to separate them in terms of flush doors, in terms of the material. So that is why you realize that you have under the element of doors, then you now have those separations. For instance, you have flush doors. It's because the rule has been has guided you to take that route. So that is what is done. So let's see. For instance, that Roman 1 talks about describing the type of flush door that it is, the type of whatever that is been used to make to the outside of it, the thickness, the quality, and all that it entails. Now once you've separated your door that way, then now the rule tells you that those items you can measure them in square meters, okay? But then alternatively, which is the one that is common for those that have interacted with, is the one that I've highlighted. You enumerate your doors, okay? You count them in number. So for instance, you have doors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in different rooms. You combine that. If they are the ones that are having the same description, same size, same description in terms of the specifications, then you need to make them together. You count them and then you price them as it is. Of course, describing the structure, the type of material, the core, state of construction, the thickness of the floor of the door, the kind, quality, and thickness of the facing material, and the method of facing of the material to the core. So that is now a full description of the door, and then you count how many of those in that given house or that building are of that specifications. So once you have that, then you've followed the rule, how the rule is telling you to work on them, okay? So you can, that is a classification of door number 1. You can talk about flush doors. Then you can also talk about boarded doors, okay? Boarded doors stating the thickness, the boardings, ledges, yeah, especially these are traditional doors that you will see them just in very rare occasions. But then rule still covers how you can handle such. And then of course there are those panel doors, yeah, which are very, very interesting type of doors based on strength. You can use them externally, can also use them internally as you so wish. So all those rule, the basic is still standing to be you doing them in numbers. So you count how many of them, depending on size, depending on material, and depending on all the specifications. If they are of different specifications, as you can see in this presentation, these are now different in terms of sizes. Okay, let's talk about this one. You have those that are 800 by 2400 millimeters, but then there are those that are 900 by 2400 millimeters. So you've separated them based on the size, but then the common description is constant for all of them. So in that case, you just make your full description, and then you now have your specifications, your different categorization in terms of the sizes as you've been shown in that given bills of quantities. So that said, then you understand that now under doors, the timber doors falls under joinery, okay? That is according to the rules, done in enumerated or done in numbers. And then we talk about also casements, okay? can have casements that are made of joinery casements for various items that you have here. So in this case, this is also falling under also to be done in numbers. Okay, you can have joinery or timber that is casing the different items or openings that you have. So in that case, then you also do them in numbers, as we've seen in that given case. Okay, of course, you also have other items that are falling within this joinery, including frames, transoms. Frames, now the one that is now to the direct contact with your walls. Okay, state the size, and then you have mullions especially for the windows, and then we have transoms. Transoms are now the part that is now separating the fan light and then the down part of the door. Okay, basically separate the fan light so that you have proper lighting and proper ventilation. Basically, those are the two reasons for having the fan light at the top there. So those ones are also done in linear meters. Okay, as you can see from that given section. So once you have that, you have your principles at the fingertips. You've already mastered that this is what we need to do, this is how we do it, and then you are good to go in terms of joinery that we have there. Then next we look at now these are the fittings and the fixtures. Okay, yeah, these items might be confusing, so you need to just remember fittings and fixtures. Those are includes now items like cupboards, tables, workbenches, countertops, and so on. Okay, then you also need to have a distinction between your fittings and fixtures and also joineries. So joineries, you can talk of items like the doors that you've seen. Then fittings and fixtures, we can talk about the dressers, cupboards, workbenches, and so on. Okay, so I need you to just note of that difference, because you can use them interchangeably, but then you now need to know the specifics of what actually each of them mean in terms of the items that are available there. Yeah, so still under the item that we are covering here, that is the fittings, and now these are now falling under the subtitle staircases. You can also have joinery items in the staircases. For instance, you talk about the handrails. That is done in linear meters, as you can see, and I'm also going to show you from the bills of quantities. We also have the balusters also in linear meters. So let's see an example of the same and how it has been carried out in terms of description and the unit in the bills of quantities. Looking into element 12 in this particular work that is here, then you notice that we have that has been described in terms of the handrails and also the balusters. So that you give it in linear meters as has been shown, and also as the rule as expressed. So you take note of that, you give your proper description. That is now the underlying concept, that you have to give proper description in terms of what you are building or what you are putting in place, and then you refer to the rule. Talks about linear meters, so that is what you have to conform to in terms of your expression of what you are measuring in that case. Then lastly, let's talk about these are bolts. Okay, measure them in enumerated, and then you talk about the diameter and the length, and other terms that are also to be included in the description include nuts and the washers that are also associated with such bolting items. So that brings us to the end of this session, which I believe was interesting and you've learned something. Thank you so much for being part of this channel, being part of the subscribers to this channel, and I want to say thank you very much. Please, if you please, you can share the videos. Let's learn more on top of what we have, and so excited that you are waiting for the next session that is going to be under structural steel. And I also believe that it's also going to be worthwhile, as we'll be watching it let's stick to this, let's keep learning, and I want to wish you all the very best, and that content going to be of help to you. Thank you.